I'm going to show you how I make Portuguese paste, cooking hot pepper chili paste. This is every recipe that I've ever looked at has its own thing, and but even in all the cultures, like Africa has one, Korea has one, Thailand has one, Cambodia has one. They all have their own kind of hot pepper sauce or paste. But they're all very similar from the research that I've done. Some like the seeds in, some don't like the seeds in. I've always used the one with seeds. There's a rooster sauce, kind of like a sriracha, same company, but it does have the seeds in it, and that's easier for me to do. But I don't have all of the seeds, and I'll show you what I do. A neighbor grew a bunch of peppers, was pulling out the plants, and said I could distribute them and use them. So I took out the red ones, and I'm making a red sauce. To make it easy, I first off, before you do anything, should have told you this, rub olive oil on your hands, use a non-powder glove, and then use a large rubber glove. It will get on your skin and it will burn if you don't take precautions. So double glove is the best thing, and don't ever touch your eyes even when you take your hands out. You can clean with hydrogen peroxide after you take them off and wash them with soap and rub some olive oil on them, and that can help if you do get some on your skin. But always take precautions and wear gloves. That's the first thing. It's quite important. Then while you're wearing gloves, you can see I've got mine right there, I just was washing them and then cutting the ends off. And then once I've cut the ends off, I just reach in and pull out the core of seeds, because I don't want a ton of seeds, but I don't mind the seeds. The rest of the seeds that are in there are fine. You can use any kind of processor. This is a vita-mix. Food processors don't chop it quite enough. A lot of people use a meat grinder, but I didn't want to dig mine out, so I just used the vita-mix and plunge it down and get it into this texture right here. Once it's at this texture, I stick it on the heat. It was boiling a minute ago, so it is quite warm. It's been boiling for about 10 minutes. Some say up to an hour, just depends on the recipe. And then some say add the garlic. I personally do like the garlic, so I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to do it. So you can get this peeled garlic at the grocery store. You can also buy the chopped garlic. And I usually cook with both. When I'm doing, even when I use the spicy sauce in my roasts and other things, I use this. Oh, sorry. There's lots of different brands. I've used all different types. I have one of those in my fridge, and I go through them about once every month and a half, 2 months, depending on how many kids I have at home. But anyway, you can throw a couple of these in the blender. A couple cloves for, say, 1.5 cups. So this is probably 3 to 4 cups of hot peppers blended down. I would probably throw about 3 cloves of these peppers in the mix. I haven't yet, because I'm going to try one without and then one with and see which one I like better. And then about a tablespoon of salt. The Portuguese ones have more salt than that. I use real salt, and you can see on my blog, I buy it by the bulk and then just refill this. So that's about a tablespoon of salt. And then anywhere from 1/2 cup, I'm going to pull the top off that. This is just red wine vinegar. You can use any kind of vinegar. I have several different flavors, but this is the one I just pulled out, red wine vinegar. So anywhere from 1/2 cup to 1 cup, depending on how flavorful you want it. I don't want it really watery, and that's why I was letting it boil down. I want some of the moisture out of it. I like it more like a paste. So, and then most all of them call for olive oil. And I'm telling you, I looked at probably 15, 20 different recipes from different countries to see how they make them and the differences in the countries. And almost all of them call for some kind of olive oil. I don't like a lot of oil in mine, so many of the Portuguese recipes that I looked at talk about putting a couple of squirts of olive oil in the top of the jar. I'm going to heat this up again now that I've added that vinegar. I'm going to let it boil down for a little bit more to make it more of a paste, get a little bit more of the fluid out, and then if you're going to use it in the next couple of months, Then you can put it in a jar. Now, I use it a lot in cooking, but I don't have that many kids. I only have one child left at home. So for me, I went through a gallon of this, and you can see my blog, thesecretisgratitude.com, and I have recipes that I use this on. I just say crushed red pepper in the different recipes, so you can look up crushed pepper or red pepper in the search box at the bottom and see the different recipes and how I use it. And most people really like it. Even if they say they don't like spicy, they don't really even taste it. I put it on my roasts, every roast, and it's very good on potatoes. And that's a classic Portuguese thing, is olive oil and the bread paste on potatoes kind of gives them a red color, and that is a very classic Portuguese dish. But anyway, since I don't have that many at home, I'm just going to keep a small jar of this for the fridge, and then I'm going to bag the rest and turn the top down when you're doing it, and make sure you're wearing gloves. Once it's cooled, see, it was already warm, it's already boiling. Don't let it burn, but so just keep it on like a simmer and stir it regularly. And then once it's done, you can scoop it into here, make sure you're wearing gloves, bag it, and then double bag it. Lay it flat, I always write the date and contents in it. And then you can put 4 or 5 of these in a gallon-sized bag and lay them flat and freeze them flat. And then once you've gone through, because they don't last a long time, even with the preservatives in it, the gallon jar, it started getting dark. It didn't go bad, but it just didn't have the best flavor. The preservatives started, it just got thicker and pastier and darker. So I would just refill this jar with one of these bags after I use it. So keeping it in the freezer will make it last longer. And hopefully you can get through, a year till your next harvest by doing it this way and putting some in the freezer. Unless you do have a lot of fridge space and you want to put a little bit more preservative in it, you can do that. But I personally don't want to do that. So that's how I'm doing it. Now at this point, once you've boiled it down and it's the thickness you like and it has the amount of seeds, so you can see there's seeds in there, but there's not a ton. I just didn't want a mouthful of seeds every time. So you can put a little bit of this on a plate with some olive oil and dab some bread in it and taste it and see if it needs a little bit more salt or vinegar or garlic or whatever you like. I know some of the Indian recipes call for caraway and oh goodness, what's the other one? Cardamom. What's the... Oh shoot. Cilantro. Sorry, the seeds off of the cilantro. Once the seeds are off of it, it's cardamom, and then I'm pretty sure that's the name of it, and then they roast that over just kind of lightly roast it, and then grind it in a coffee grinder, and then they'll add that to it to give it a little bit more seasoning. I've never tried that, so I didn't want to do something I hadn't tried, but that recipe actually was on YouTube, and I found it very helpful, so check that out and give them kudos if that's something you like or want to try. But other than that, the recipes were very similar, except they don't use any of the seeds. But and then once you've got it to the thickness you want, you've got it in a clean, sterile jar. The acid in the peppers will rust the lid on the jar, so I will put a baggie in between the metal lid and ring. Like right here, this is what I would do. So I would take this and once it's in there, obviously I wouldn't use a wet one, gross, but I would put it in there and then I would put the ring on it so that the plastic takes it doesn't allow the metal to break down and cause any rusting on the lid. And I've had it in the fridge for quite a few months. It works pretty great. And then you can squirt some oil in the top of the jar once you've got that in there. Some of them say leave it in the fridge after this for a couple days with some salt, and they also sometimes will salt the peppers beforehand. Those are all different options, and if this isn't, if you try this and this isn't exactly what you want, try something different. But there's so many different types. You just have to find the flavor that you like and the taste that you like, and then continue with that one. But this is how I'm doing it, and hope you enjoy it.